Hi guys, welcome back to the Boot Room, and today we're starting off our series of teams of the decade. We're going to start with Liverpool. I actually think maybe the most interesting team to run through in sort of the top six or in the Premier League, simply because they started this decade, the sort of 2010s, the early 2010s, with pretty average managers, pretty average sides. The likes of Yossi Benayoun, Joe Cohen, sort of past his prime. Roy Hodgson was manager. Kenny Dalglish had a spell. Bit weird, and obviously then suddenly it goes full sort of kilter, and Jurgen Klopp comes in and it just goes from 0 to 100 instantly. And well, not instantly, it took some time, but obviously they reached the pinnacle of football this decade as well. So they sort of had a few league positions where they came 7th, 8th, 6th, and then suddenly they came second last season, and they're currently first this season, of course, and won the Champions League last season. So it's been an up and down kind of decade for them. They won the League Cup this decade, obviously the Champions League and the Super Cup, but that's about it. So a few trophies, not as many as I think Liverpool fans would like, but I'm just going to start sort of going through the team and just see what you guys think of it. In goal, Alisson, no question. You look at some of the keepers they've had: Mignolet in goal, Pepe Reina at the back end of his career. Not quite the world-class level that Liverpool fans expect and know and love at a keeper. And Alisson has been exceptional. Obviously changed the way Liverpool can defend and play out from the back. He's a massive guy as well. Kept an incredible amount of clean sheets, something like 21 clean sheets last season. And he just looks like a unit, doesn't he? He looks like he can fill the boots of it. You know, being the keeper, the starting keeper at Anfield for a massive historic club. I think he fits the bill, and there's no question he's the best keeper of the decade for Liverpool. There's a few options at right back. By the way, we're going to play a 4-3-3 kind of formation. I think it's the most used formation Liverpool have sort of used this decade. At right back, Trent Alexander-Arnold, no question for me. I think the qualities displayed at such a young age. He's obviously part of the side that, you know, he's a starting sort of foundational member of the side that won the Champions League. And even that corner alone, he deserves to be in the 11 with that cheeky corner against Barcelona at Anfield that gets him into the game, and, you know, obviously gets him basically into the final. What an incredible display of individual brilliance from a 20-year-old. And let's be honest, if I'm making a team of the decade in 2029, if I'm still doing this, then I think there's probably a very good chance he'll be right back then as well, or even a midfielder. So he is that good, and I think most people would agree with that. Alongside Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think you have to put Martin Skrtel in there. He was sort of the most used sort of defender in Brendan Rodgers' run. He was solid under Roy Hodgson and the like. I just think he's a bit better than Matip. I think he's a bit better in his prime at Liverpool than Daniel Agger, potentially. I think that's the most contentious thing in this list is probably the centre-back option. But Martin Skrtel, obviously, on his day, was a solid defender. Not sort of playing out from the back. He wasn't sort of Rolls-Royce of a defender, but really solid defender, and I think Liverpool fans really did like him. He played a ton of games in this decade for them, obviously part of the League Cup winning side, and very dependable. I think it's fair play to say that he would have started ahead of Lovren in a lot of games this season if he was still at Liverpool in his sort of prime. So I think that's fair to say. Next to Skrtel will be Van Dijk, no question, maybe the best defender in the world for the last 2 seasons. Contribute again 21 clean sheets and about 37. A massive sort of deal to bring him in, 75 million quid, most expensive centre-back in the history of the game. And is he worth it? Every single penny, absolutely. He's been exceptional. I don't think Liverpool would be Premier League champions elect and Champions League winners without him. He's changed their back line. He's even made sort of the midfielders ahead of him look more confident, more comfortable. And the way he can drive a ball 40-50 yards into Mane and Salah, exceptional. And he could go down as one of the best defenders in Liverpool history ever, let alone this decade. To the left of him, Andy Robertson. Again, not too many left backs to pick from. I think Liverpool fans want to forget Paul Konchesky as much as possible, who obviously played under Roy Hodgson for sort of half a season before Roy got sacked. But Robertson has come in from Hull. He's come in as a sort of underdog kind of player. He's come from a very small club in Scotland called Queen's Park. Obviously Hull in the Championship. He's done wonders with his career, and his work ethic has paid dividends. And then on top of the work ethic, he's obviously built quality. His distribution is exceptional. His energy, his enthusiasm for the game. He hasn't sort of let his success get to him. Let the fact that he's now sort of the main man for Scotland, for his national team, in terms of creativity and bombing forward. none of that's got to him, and he's still humble, works harder than anyone else on the side, and he's, let's be honest, he is a world-class left-back. And when you're looking at some of the players that Liverpool even have, I think even sort of Andre Dosena and people like that, absolute joke at left-back. And I think Liverpool fans were crying out for a guy as passionate as Robertson to play left-back for a long time, and it certainly happened. At the base of the midfield, I think you have to put Steven Gerrard in. I think it's fair to say he's past his prime in 2010, the season where some legendary players have that one final season before they retire where they're back in their peak. John Terry had it for Chelsea under Mourinho in the second spell. Rio Ferdinand had it when they won the Premier League, Man United. Obviously, before he went to QPR and was absolutely awful. Steven Gerrard for Brendan Rodgers the season before they got into the Champions League, and he was ultimately dropped by Rodgers in a lot of those big games. And then obviously he left. The 2013-14 season, he was spraying balls around. He wasn't as powerful and dynamic as he used to be, but he'd never lose the ball. He was a leader. He could play a great pass. He was kind of the metronome of that Liverpool side, and him keeping the ball the way he did with the likes of Coutinho ahead of him, Suarez, even Raheem Sterling, Daniel Sturridge. He was the base and the axis of that midfield, and that's why Liverpool came so close, so very close to winning the Premier League. Alongside Steven Gerrard is Jordan Henderson. This guy's improved massively. He's played probably the most amount of games for Liverpool this decade as well. He's joined in 2011, and he's been in nearly every side and every starting 11 since then, really. He's so reliable, he's so dependable. He's never going to be Gerrard level world class, he just isn't, but he sort of gets through games keeping the ball ticking over. He reminds me of a bit like Scott Brown for Celtic, that sort of ever reliable, one club kind of man. Obviously both players play for different clubs, but long-term one club man for a successive spell. And the fact that he's lifting the Champions League trophy shows you that dreams, anything is possible, and dreams can come true. He is brilliant. He keeps the ball well, high energy, great for this Liverpool side under Jurgen Klopp. He's sort of the Gegenpress exemplified. Very physically fit, very rugged, plays well for England as well. So he's one of the most improved players in the Premier League, and he goes in alongside Steven Gerrard. Alongside Steven Gerrard and Jordan Henderson will be Philippe Coutinho, whose season in 2013-14 was one of the best individual seasons for Liverpool in the last 20 years, let alone the last 10 years. He could create any kind of goal you wanted. He had a great long shot on him. Even the finish against Man City, the 3-2 curling finish, absolutely brilliant. You can see why Barcelona spent so much money on him. When he was playing, he was in the form of his life at Liverpool. I think Liverpool do that a lot with a lot of players. They sort of come in as sort of semi-stars. Obviously, he came from Inter Milan, so not a small club by any stretch of the imagination, but he turned into a real proper player there, and he's gone to Barcelona. Didn't quite work out, and at Bayern, I think Bayern fans are desperate for him to stay. Liverpool fans can tell Bayern fans exactly what he's all about, and he's replicated his Liverpool form in Bayern and not necessarily in Barcelona. On the right, Mohamed Salah, highest scorer in the Premier League history in a single season, 32 goals and 38 appearances. Absolutely insane. I think it's 41 in all competitions in a single season, which is the second highest in Liverpool history. He's won the PFA Player of the Year award, a Champions League. He basically got Liverpool to the final the season before, scored a ton of goals, and also got injured against Real Madrid and didn't quite win it that time. But I'm sure he's not too sad about that one, based on what happened the following season. But he can do anything. He's a bit like, he reminds me of Robben, a little bit more physical in terms of power, pressing from the front. But obviously when he cuts in on his left foot, he's outrageous, absolutely outrageous. And there's no question, even if you based it on one season, that 2017-18 season, where he scored about 41 goals in all competitions, outrageous. And that gets on the right ahead of someone like Yossi Benayoun or whoever some of these weird players that Liverpool had back in the early days under Roy Hodgson and stuff like that. There's no question Salah is a cut above the rest and goes on to the right wing. On the left, obviously, you have to partner Salah on one side to the other with Sadio Mane. Arguably this season and the back end of last season, he was better than Salah. Highly consistent. Obviously, it's his kind of flick cross that gets handballed by Sissoko in the Champions League final. So essentially, gets them the win. Gets them their sixth Champions League. Obviously, He's a bit more physical than Salah. I think he's a quicker player. Mane's a bit leaner, a bit smaller, and he's actually now developing his right foot as potent as Salah's left foot. I mean, it's scary if you're playing against both of them because they can both cut in and shoot from any range. His finishing is unbelievable. His heading ability is brilliant when he flicks in goals. A goal against Aston Villa in the Premier League this season has been absolutely exceptional in terms of his finish. And you just have to look at Sadio Mane as just being Liverpool exemplified. He's humble. He's passionate. He's absolutely world-class skill level. I think Liverpool fans are very, very happy with him on the left wing. And up front, maybe the best player Liverpool have had this decade, it has to be Luis Suarez. Only won the League Cup with Liverpool. He didn't actually win a Premier League or obviously get them to the Champions League final or anything like that. But in terms of individual brilliance, he scored 69 goals in about 110 appearances, which is an outrageous ratio for someone who didn't really stay in the Premier League that long. Obviously went to Barcelona, has won everything there since. No question, in his prime, he was maybe the best striker in the world, maybe the best player in the Premier League, maybe one of the best strikers the Premier League's ever seen in a sort of short spell. I don't think there's any disputing he's better than sort of Henry or Aguero because those guys have stayed longer. But Suarez, some of the goals he scored against Norwich, outrageous, absolutely outrageous. He could chip you, he could dribble past you, he could score tap-ins, he could score free kicks. Everything about him, he was unplayable at points. And obviously that little edge he had as well was useful for him to get past defenders and be aggressive, but also not useful if you're biting chunks out of players' arms like Ivanovic. So, yeah, very interesting that lineup. And guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about this lineup. Have I missed anyone out? Liverpool fans, I'm sure, will let me know if I have. And obviously their manager, I mean, if you had to do an honourable mention, it has to be Jurgen Klopp, who, for me, has been absolutely sensational since he's arrived. Hasn't spent much money in terms of net spend. And look, when you're competing against Roy Hodgson or you know, no disrespect to Kenny Dalglish, but those kind of 10 years at Liverpool this decade, no question that Jurgen Klopp's been the most successful manager. Brendan Rodgers runs Jurgen Klopp close for what he did in the Premier League in 2013-14, but Jurgen Klopp is obviously the manager of the decade for Liverpool too. Guys, let me know what you think about this series. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.